Welcome students, welcome to this next video lecture, and the content today we are going to study is intercultural communication. So see here, let us revise some part that we have already studied. So uh, see here, we have done various things here. Okay, we have covered context, we have covered competence, we are talking about intercultural communication today. And just for revision, we talked about context. We have talked uh, about the importance of context in intercultural communication. We have talked about the importance of context in business. We have talked about context in international communication. We have talked communicative competence, what it means to be communicative competent. We have talked about and what it means to be competent in our communication, in our interactions. So we have talked about interpretive competence, we have talked about intercultural competence as proposed by Spitzberg. Within this, we have talked about the individual system, we have talked about the episodic system, we have talked about the relational system, we have also talked about identity and competence, we have talked about what it means to have a particular identity, what identity means for you. We have talked about what cultural identity is. We have also talked about what competence in identity or in your cultural identity could mean, or competence with respect to your cultural identity could mean. Okay, again, just for revision purpose, cultural competence is the demonstrated ability to enact a cultural identity in a mutually appropriate and effective manner. Let us just focus on this definition. Let me remind you again. I'm going to keep repeating this in every lecture. Cultural competence is the demonstrated ability to enact a cultural identity in a mutually appropriate and effective manner, which means competence has to happen, okay, and communication has to happen between two communication between two people, okay, and communication is not dependent on communication is not dependent on one individual alone, and your competence depends on how comfortably other person feels in your presence. So how effectively the other person is able to understand your message and act upon it, and that is what intercultural competence is. Intercultural competence is all about, or communicative competence is all about. So intercultural competence is the reinforcement of culturally different identities that are aligned in that particular situation. Okay, so I had asked you to think about how a discussion on identity and cultural identity can be relevant to training in international business communication, or to this course business communication. This is course on business communication, which means that culture has to play an important part in this, and culture is an important aspect of international business communication. We are not only talking about geographical boundaries, okay, you can be intercultural within the same nation. India is the diverse as it gets. You go to the metropolitan cities, and every second person you find on the street belongs to a different state. So for people who do not belong to India, I can suggest a website by the National Informatics Centers. Okay, the address is www.nic.in. Sorry. So you can go to this address, and you can look at the National Informatics Center and at the website put up by the National Informatics Center, and find out how diverse India is. For people from India, you know what I'm talking about. I'm sure you have been to or visited some big city at some point in our lives, and you have seen that you will find people from all different states of the country converging in common places, interacting with each other, working with each other, enjoying life with each other, sharing festivals, sharing their cultural backgrounds with each other in big city. So that's how intercultural India is. Even though we get clubbed as one nation when we step outside the country, but when we come back into our country, we really realize how diverse we are, and that is why a training or some kind of input on intercultural communication is extremely relevant for a course in international in this course in business communication. So today we will revise that point, that is culture. I had given you some few inputs, and we will focus our attention on this definition. Please read the definition which is given here. Let me revise it with you. Porter and Samover in 1994 came up with, I have been, though many definitions there are, but I found this to be most relevant. So I will revise the definition with you. According to Porter and Samover, some of the leading professionals in the area of intercultural communication, the definition of the culture is the deposit of culture is the deposit of knowledge, what we know, what we the kinds of experiences we share, the kinds of beliefs we have, the kinds of value systems we have, our attitudes towards various things in life, towards various things in our environment, the meaning we assign to different things, hierarchies, who is senior, who is junior, what should come first, what should come next, who needs to, whose words or whose request will you follow first, or what gets a higher priority. When you say hierarchies, we also talk about the manner in which we will prioritize different things in our lives. So that also comes in religion. Okay, so religion, in what we think about our own religion, how we regard our religion in relation to the other religions around us, all those things. Notions of time, Indian standard time versus Indian stretchable time, roles, you know, who am I, who I come from, when I come here teach you and teach, am I only acting as a teacher, or am I also wearing that hat in the backup of my mind, thinking about my family, in the back of my mind I am thinking about some friend who is in trouble, in the back of my mind I'm, you know, I have these different roles that I play in my life. So you might be playing the same role in your life. So I am thinking about those roles. When I come here to work, are they still there, or do I completely disregard those roles and only focus on this lecture? So do I bring in my own experiences in those roles into this, or do I keep them in separate compartments? All those things. Spatial relations do not have sorry, do not have anything to do with outer space. It is about your immediate, it is about your immediate space, it is about your personal bubble, it is about your personal boundaries. So we may talk about this, what is personal bubble and what is our privacy. Okay, so what do we do in India when we are in line of, if people are standing in a line, if there is some space, we think that if the person is not within say 5 or 10 centimeters, within 5 centimeters or meters of another person in the line, then some problem. So if you are more than 5 centimeters away from the person, or 5 meters are away from the person, then what do the others people do? They come and either politely ask you if you are in line or not, or they just try and squeeze into that 5 centimeters space. So I mean, but in the other countries, some countries say you should maintain a distance 1 arm length between people when you are in line. So you don't really pile on to each other and the various reasons. Nothing's right or wrong, nothing is good or bad, nothing is appropriate or inappropriate. Let us just focus on the definition. It is just that these things are defined by culture. Okay, so concept of the universe for us, for example, see here, Chanda Mama, you might know this concept, Chanda Mama. The moon is not your mother's brother, but we have Surya Devata, and different people in different religions have different connotations associated with these things, and they are also somehow governed by the influence the communities living around us have on us. So all those things. Universe doesn't only mean outer space. Universe also means your physical environment, your celestial environment, material objects and possessions acquired by a group of people. So you know that material object has some other meaning for you, for me, okay? Besides, it is a physical utility and possessions acquired by a group of people in the course of generations. So again, another example is a piece of land. Many of you could be from agricultural backgrounds. You could have inherited a piece of land. So the agricultural land is a part of your family. It's not a resource that gives you a source of living. It's also a part of your family. And when you want to sell that land or house or some possessions that were handed down through generations, you feel uncomfortable about it, or maybe you when you say a group of people, it is just some communities hold some things dear, some religions place, some community centers, something that you hold dear as a team, okay, or some personal possessions, and all these things, the deposits of all these things, deposits I said here, deposits of your material, your thought, your resources in your mind, deposits of all these things that we have acquired by a group of people in the course of generations, okay? So you do not do these things in one shot. These things come through generations. Values comes through generations. Values are passed from passed on our from our elders, and they are told to us. And we see our elders doing something, and we sort of learn from them. We learn from the significant others' environment, and these are passed on by this group of people. They are acquired and passed on by these people in the course of generations through individual and group striving. So you have worked hard yourself, you have also been a part of a team, and the team doesn't necessarily have to be a team at work. It's your family in your team, is your team. So all your cousins got together and worked for your aunt's marriage or something like that. So all these things, I mean, this is something small, but you could be taking bigger decisions as a community, as a team of people. So all these things contribute to our definition of our culture. It is a very complex, chaotic concept. So it's here, culture is manifested through artifacts, concepts, behavior. So we express our culture consciously and subconsciously through the things we have to, or what we believe in, and through the manner in which we react or interact with our environment. Right now I am communicating with you, it is another kind of culture, because I have background of classroom, I have background of reference books or textbooks or teaching material or teaching aids. Again, it is belong to me, these things are belong to me as a culture, okay? And in that environment, in that condition, I am speaking with you, okay? So various cultural frameworks, there are some various cultural frameworks have been proposed, and several theorists have given these frameworks, and we will talk about these in detail another time. But Magnuson et al. Wrote a paper in 2008, which is very comprehensive paper on this cultural framework. This is the screenshot of that research paper. So see here, according to this paper, cultural frameworks, they have been given by various people. So Hofstede, of course, Hofstede uh, uh, studies world renowned IBM workers in a total of 40 countries, and then Schwarz studies uh, student social studies students and teachers in 31 countries. Then Trompinars studied managers from 54 different countries, and according to the Globe study, 50 managers in 58 countries were studied. According to the ID studied, Zhu et al. And uh, Zhu et al. Studied 45 and 53 countries respectively and came up with various concepts in different cultural frameworks. So this concept relate to various things. They relate to individual concepts, individual ideologies. Then they are related to different kinds of ideology that teams or groups of people or community follow, and I have attempted to classify these ideologies into various categories, and we will talk about that in just a minute. So see here, but again some revisions on the source of differences. There are some source of differences. So what makes us different? How do we believe in different things? Why do we believe in different things? It is determined by all of these things that make us different from each other, the things which are mentioned in this slide. So these things make us different from each other. So we could be different because we belong to, or we could be different on the basis of race. And of course this list has been compiled after going through the work of Dr. Mary Jane Collier, Penderhus, Martin and Nakayama, and came up with this list. Which is by no means comprehensive. So please feel free to add whatever you think can be added to this, but we believe that we are different because we come from different races. So different racial backgrounds, we believe in different religions, we believe in different ideologies, we could be from different countries, and countries in turn have, each of these categories has a whole lot of background to it. So we could be believing in different ideologies, we could be coming from different countries, we could be from different ethnicities. So please think about the difference between nationality and ethnicity and race. People confuse these things, or they get confused between these three concepts. So see here, ethnicity is the community that you can relate to. For example, for my ethnicity, I am an Indian national because of the geographical boundary. But North Indian becomes my ethnicity. It is a different ethnic group than the South Indians, than the Eastern Indians, than the North Eastern people belongs to the northeastern states, and ethnicity is a mixture of race and nationality and community. So that defines who we are, what we believe in appearance. Okay, appearance means how tall you are, what dress you have. Okay, so these are, they belong to your appearance. So again we will come to the body structure later, but what I look like, my physical attributes, the shape of my eyes, the color of my hair, all these contributes to your appearance or to my appearance. These things are also applicable to you. So personal artifacts, what I carry on my uh, uh, for example, the things that I carry with me, those are called here personal artifacts. So someone will prefer the color black, or someone will prefer everything that having the color black. Okay, so again someone will feel you prefer neutral color. Okay, so these are the things which can say the personal artifacts. So these are some people who like universal texture. So different people believe in different things. Body structure, height, weight, ratio, all these things have a big impact on what you believe about yourself, and how other people perceive you, and how other people perceive what you could be doing next. So people who are obsessed or who are overweight are perceived to be non-serious for whatever reasons, and they have been there have been studies conducted on this. So people believe that people who are obese or who are overweight or who are not physically fit will not be very serious about their work. And the reasoning behind that seems to be that if you are not serious about your own health, or about your own physical appearance, why would you want to be serious about, or how can they believe that you will be serious about the work they assign to you? So that could be the reason. So we have both sides of the coin, but we have different perceptions. So I can understand what other people must be feeling. But anyway, we also, there seems to be these things, this belief in a lot of places, that tall people and people with a proportionate body structure, whatever that's supposed to mean, the ideal definition of portion is really elusive. So what is proportionate, what is disproportionate is quite relative as far as beliefs go, but that also differs from person to person. But people believe that people who are tall and broad shoulders will generally be more classy, will generally be more polished in the manner in which they work. May be right, may not be wrong, may not be right. I do not know, but behavioral style. Next point is behavioral style, extroversion, introversion, outgoing, meticulous, all those things sort of contribute to your behavioral style. Okay, so gender, I do not need to I think elaborate on this. Some professions are typical man professions and some professions are typical women professions. Okay, for example, homely work is done by mostly women, and the work which is belong outside work or laborious work is done by men. So all these things, if you find a women who is professor of aerospace engineering, it is becoming more and more expected in a place like India. But from say a more conservative community, a professor of aerospace engineering, a women professor of aerospace engineering would, even though teaching is supposed to be a women's profession or equally a women's profession as a man's profession, but people would probably not expect to be women in this branch of engineering. So again we have, and if she is there, then different opinions are associated with her. We may have different opinions about that educated, well educated, that engineer, aerospace engineer, if she is a woman. So next point is sexual identity. In a conservative place like India, we are still a little reserved in our acceptance of different sexual identities. You know, heterosexuality seems to be the most appropriate form of sexual identity, and homosexuality is still something that people do not want to talk very much about. So it is not an acknowledged, I would not say accepted, but people do not want to acknowledge its existence, and it's just a different way of life. But we are still a little reserved in our acknowledgement, in our acceptance of different sexual identity, and our behavior towards any indication of a different sexual identity varies in different situation. So next is the point age. Okay, so what age you have and what age other older people or elder people have, it matters to our communication or intercultural communication. Okay, so you know, or if somebody is senior, I mean, we attribute to many things to different age groups. So all those things make us different from each other. Family constellation. Next point is family constellation. Family constellation is another thing that defines our differences. Okay, we are talking about the cultural differences. So if we come from nuclear families versus joint families, and if you tell somebody that you are from a nuclear family, single child home, people will say that you have never been exposed to sharing these things with people. So you do not have any siblings, so you may not know how to share, and you could be the most open, most lovable, most selfless person, but people will have that impression about you. As opposed to somebody from a joint family, people will say, if you come from a joint family, you always had people in and out of your life, so you do not really have a very close personal boundary. And if we have these things, we have other opinions associated with people from single parent homes, with people from parents who had a second marriage, all those things. So we have certain ideas, we have certain ideas. Let me clear here. We have certain ideas associated with people coming from different families. If your older brothers, your order of siblings, where do you stand? If you are the youngest one, you could be the most pampered one. If you are the oldest one, you are perceived to be a little more responsible than the youngest member of the family. So all those things come in. So here we may stop, we can proceed further, but till the next lecture we may think about these points that we have just discussed here. So let us stop here.